Welcome to the Cool Vodcast, and I am Alex.
I'm Jody.
And today we are here with the good old Mr. Jeff Brown.
What's up, y'all? What's up? What's up?
Good to have you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
This
I
is
got
fun.
a nice setup here. I like this.
All right, Jeff, we have a get to know you question.
All right, let's do it.
Prep yourself. It's would you rather.
Ooh.
Would you rather know the history of every object that you touch or be able to talk to animals?
Talk to animals 1,000%.
Wow,
One-
that's so
Okay.
quick.
Yeah, let me
Why?
tell you
I
why.
didn't even
'Cause
thought in that.
I'm a germaphobe. So if I know where everything I touch has been, I'm freaking out.
Okay.
Like my OCD would definitely kick in. So talk to
I love
animals, yeah.
All right.
I love it. I would definitely go to the zoo and talk to the lions.
Okay.
You know, I feel like I got an inner lion in me at times.
Okay.
So
Perfect.
Wow.
Nice.
Wow.
All
An
right.
Inner lion. I'm
Yeah.
going to hold on to that one for a
Right.
while.
That's awesome.
Oh, man. Man, I don't know. What would you do?
I don't think I would care to touch and know, but I don't have a strong affinity for talking with animals either.
You could talk to your dog, Crosby.
Oh, we already speak.
yeah.
Wow.
Sweet little pup.
So Jody, you're one of those. Is that what you're saying?
He is my fur baby. I
Crosby's
can't
going to
deny
heaven,
it.
isn't he?
I can't. He's
Hey.
going to puppy heaven for sure.
That's hilarious. I think I'm going to disagree with you both. I'd love to know the history of everything. I mean, come on.
That's just a lot of useless knowledge. I don't know.
So then the question is, though, if you touch the animal, would you basically be talking to them because you know all the history of them?
But are we saying only objects or things and people
Oh,
too?
she did say objects, didn't she?
Yeah,
I think it's objects.
No, well, fail at that. Anyway, terrible segue going on right here. So today we are going to talk about question asking and how listening is actually just as important as the question asking, or even more so sometimes important than actually talking. So can you help us maybe understand a little bit what maybe a good conversation would look like between you and somebody else when you're asking good questions and you're actively listening?
Yeah, good question. What'd you just say? So that's not what you did. No, but seriously, man, I think you hit it on the head. Like, in order to have good conversation, there has to be listening that goes on. I think maybe I can look at the negatives a little easier. We've all been in a conversation where you're only thinking about what you're going to respond and not even about what that person is saying. That's problematic automatically because you're not listening. All you're doing is you're going to pick something down. You're like, I'm going to say this, and everybody's going to love what I respond to. I think, man, a good way to display that is to say, man, let me just actually listen to this person and not come up with my response until after they're done speaking. Because I think what that does is that makes you actually listen to what they're saying instead of what you think they're saying. I don't know how many times I've been in conversations with people and they'll be like, yeah, man, exactly. And then they respond with whatever they thought exactly meant. And I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. That's not even what I was talking about.
Right.
So
Did
I
you
think
even listen to what I said?
Seriously, for real. So I think, man, actually waiting till people finish what they actually say and then responding is probably a helpful tool when engaging.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Yeah, when we're talking about students even, I think there's a pressure to feel like you have to have all the right answers. So speak maybe a little bit to the words, I don't know.
Ooh, oh my goodness. So as a pastor, I feel like people automatically assume that the pastor knows everything.
What?
You don't?
They do. Pastor Alex, are you sure? Like, I mean, people ask me all the time, and I do not mind saying, hey, I'm not sure. Let me look that up and come back to you. I think that's actually a sign of maturity in my mind.
Okay.
And I don't mean that just for students.
Right.
There's adults, guys, women that are 40, 50, 60 years old that are afraid to say, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I think part of maturity is saying, I don't have to know everything. Only person that knows everything is God. So we put ourselves almost in a place of God when we feel like we have to know everything. I think wisdom and maturity would say, you know what, if you don't know, don't speak into this topic. Go study it. Go back and look and say, hey, you know what, man, you remember you mentioned that? I was so interested in what you said. I went back and studied a little bit and got some thoughts to it. Let's dialogue about it. And I think people would actually appreciate that to say, man, you actually cared about what I said. You took time to think about what I said, and now you're engaging with it instead of just giving me whatever comes the first thing to your head that has no type of basis. So yeah, man.
I love that. It kind of takes the pressure off. Everyone listens differently and different things are going on in your brain. But for me, I know I actually struggle when I'm listening. I'm just listening. I'm so focused. And then there comes a moment I'm like, oh, I need to say something helpful. Oh, like, and that is a struggle for me sometimes. That's hard. I feel like I'm bad in a conversation with a friend when I feel like maybe they want something from me. They want advice or they want help. And so then I'm listening and I'm like, so that takes the pressure off of just knowing I don't have to have answers. I just sitting here, being here, giving you my ear, that is a help.
Yeah. Yeah, it also plays into like, a person walks into church and they say, hey, my name's Jeff. And you're just listening for like, where do they need to go? Or you're more looking to say, hey, they just need to go in the sanctuary. But then the next week you see them and it's their second week and you're like, hey, buddy, we've all been there. And in reality, like, how hard is it to remember somebody's name? And it is hard because what are we not doing? We're not listening. And we're definitely not actively listening. We're just listening for that exact 20 seconds. And even then, like, let's be honest, 20 seconds is a long time to remember somebody's
Alex,
name.
So are you telling me that a sign of whether or not you're a good listener or not is if you're good at remembering people's names?
I would say that, sure.
Don't do me like that.
This is not good.
No, but this is real though. I agree,
It is.
100%. It's a great point.
It
It's
is.
a great point.
There was a gal that walked in this past week, and she was new. Her name was Shoshana. And I hope that next week, that when she walks in, that by me saying, hey, Shoshana, that means like I've actively listened and I've remembered. And I know that those are different things, having a memory and listening, but I mean, it's important, So talk to me a little bit about when the Bible says be slow to speak, right? And
That's
be
a really good
slow
question.
to anger.
I feel like, because what you're talking about is self-control in some ways. I had the opportunity to preach on self-control this year. So, man, one of the hardest things is to tell our emotions that they're not absolutely right. Because typically in those moments, something inside you says that I should do this, I'm feeling this way, and I do that. I think there's actually a counseling method in biblical counseling. It talks about think, act, and feel. That's kind of the ways that it typically happens. I think the idea behind it is typically the natural way that the world works or our flesh works is to feel, think, and then act. So we feel like something is going wrong, or we feel like something should be this way, and then we think, oh, if I feel this way, my feelings must be right, and therefore I should act on my feelings in that moment. But the Bible calls us to flip that around. It's that you should actually think what the Scripture says to be true, and then act on what you know to be true from the Scriptures, and let your feelings catch up along the way.
Well, this has been super helpful, Jeff. Thank you just for joining in on this podcast. One final question we like to close with. If you could say one thing to students today, leave them with just a little nugget in regards to actively listening, what would you say?
One of the things that I missed growing up was just how much my upbringing was creating everything that I knew to be true and the way even I perceive reality. So if you can start now as a student to start being introspective, and what that means is basically get to know yourself. I know as a teenager, you probably would hate the fact that you act like your parents. You act like the people that are around you. You're like, I don't act like them. I'm nothing like them. I guarantee there's probably things that you've picked up from either your parents or your grandparents, even some of your closest friends. Get to know yourself a little better. Start seeing some of the things that you tend to do. Ask people around you, some of your friends or even your family, hey, what's some patterns that you normally see in my life? Not always to find sin issues, but just like different things that you have, like different quirks. They might say, hey, you know what? I realized that you're like Jeff and you a germaphobe. And it's helpful to know that about yourself because sometimes there may be opportunities where you can love somebody and you have no idea that you're not getting close to them because you're like, man, they look kind of like they got, I don't know, a code or something. But at least you know that you're aware of it. Just get to know yourself better. I think it can benefit you in the long run. So that's something I feel like it's been helpful for me as I got
That's a good word.
It
That's
is.
awesome. Thanks, Jeff.
Sure.
Well, thanks for tuning in. As always, subscribe, follow us on Instagram, and thanks for joining in. We'll see you next time.
See you guys.
Peace out.